of Young and Hungry. This is Leudic's new initiative where we spotlight and highlight young entrepreneurs and individuals who are just breaking the mold and going on their own adventure. So I'm Rye and this is Kara. We are your co-founders of Leudic, and today we're going to be serving as your co-hosts. Leudic is a new e-commerce clothing brand that has really comfortable, cozy, and I really think very super cute. Because very super, that's how much I think it is cute, clothing. And we're just a brand new company and we want to highlight some new individuals.
Yes, so today on Young and Hungry, we are extremely excited to have a wonderful guest. We are joined by the very talented, very amazing Madison Thompson. You guys probably would know her from Ozark. She plays a character, she plays Erin on season 3 of Ozark. Madison actually attends the University of Southern California with me, and she is getting a degree in the business of cinematic arts. It's a super cool program. And so she has been an actress for years and years and years. You'll hear all about that in the episode, and she is best known, like I said, for her role on Ozark. And so we are so excited to have her here. For anybody who is an aspiring actor and actress, she has amazing insight that she offers for people who are young, especially now that advice for you to utilize the time that we have during quarantine. And so stick around for this episode. We know it's a good one.
So before we bring Madison on, we just want to say hi to all our new viewers and welcome back to our old ones. And just to reiterate what Young and Hungry is, as a baby brand and as very young CEOs, we realized that we needed some more help and just some inspiration and influence from other individuals who are in this industry. But it was hard as a young person to find those mentors and taken seriously and get the help that we needed. So we created this series just for anyone who's out there. If any of these professions sound like something you want to do or are doing, we hope that they can help you. And we've just had so much fun learning from all these incredible people. And we're just so happy that we get to highlight all the amazing work they're doing. Yeah. So with all that being said, we cannot wait for you to meet the amazing Madison. So let's bring her on. Madison, for coming on to Young and Hungry. We're so excited to have you. You were one of the first people that Kara, as soon as we started discussing Young and Hungry, she was like, oh my God, I know this girl named Madison. We need to have her on. So we've been waiting to interview you and we're really excited. Yes. So just to get started, go ahead and tell us about yourself, how you got into acting, what that's been like, just so that the viewers know a little bit more about you.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here. So my name is Madison Thompson. I feel like the closest way that you would know me is I play a character named Erin Pierce on the Netflix show Ozark. And so, yes, I am an actress. And in addition to that, I am a full-time student at the University of Southern California. I am a rising sophomore studying a business degree in cinematic arts and a minor in the Thornton School of Music for musical theater. So I have a lot on my plate, but that means that I do dabble in front of the camera and in learning more about behind the camera. How I got into acting starts a long time ago. I was always interested in performing, putting on little shows in my room. I would do, as my parents called it, the one girl version of Annie, where I would play Annie and all the orphans and Daddy Warbucks. It was pretty interesting. And I would force my parents to watch it all the time. So my parents always knew that I liked to perform and have an audience. If there was ever a chance for me to stand up in front of my family or crowd or do public speaking or theater in like elementary school, middle school, I would always take the chance. And then finally, when I was in middle school, I was signed up for soccer practice and I really did not like soccer. And so I wanted to find a way to get out of it. So I asked my mom if I could try doing acting classes. I had done some of the plays at school, and so I thought it might be interesting. But at the time, the only acting classes that we could find that were open were film and TV. And so obviously I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and this was kind of before the film industry really started booming. It was when I was like in 6th grade, which is like 8 years, even more than that, a long time ago, a really long time ago. And so I started doing these film and TV acting classes for fun, and it was every weekend. And it was a really great way for me to get my creativity out and to just kind of be silly and goofy and creative in all sorts of the way. And so I never came into acting hoping for a career behind the camera, or there was never a thought that I could, do this as a professional career for the rest of my life. But after a couple of years, I was picked up by an agent and a manager, just kind of fell into it through showcases and meeting people. And it finally dawned on me that I really liked doing this a lot, and this could be an actual career path. So, fast forward a couple of years of working and workshops and doing smaller roles on different TV shows and smaller projects, and I am here.
That's kind of cool.
Not this.
No, quite a journey. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I just have a question about your major. That sounds like super interesting. So it's like about the business of entertainment, pretty much?
Yes. So BCA is a program that's original to USC. It was one of the reasons I was interested in USC in the first place. But it is it's a joint major program with the Marshall Business School and the School of Cinematic Arts at USC. And pretty much what it does is there were so many kids at USC that were in the business school that were interested in minoring in film studies or minoring in entertainment, and wanted to, they were in the city of the entertainment industry, right, and really wanted to create a degree for that. So they just created this degree a couple years ago. That's BCA. And so it's a curated track with a cohort of like 40 kids. And so you're based in the Marshall School, but then you take classes in the cinema school, and you take all of the basic Marshall business classes that you would take: accounting, marketing, macroeconomics, business organization. So you really get that business foundation. Yeah. And then they've created these niche classes just for our cohort that'll be, for example, producing motion pictures, how to market a feature film, marketing for TV and games. And so all these like niche markets that have come out, it really helps, curate the class towards that, which is really interesting.
I love that. This reminds me of, funnily enough, there's a quote by Cardi B. I recently saw it. She was like on stage talking about like what it is to be successful and stuff. And she was like, I think every single person should take a business class, because I didn't, and now I have to pay someone to do business for me. And I wish I had taken some business classes so I could be this one person like show, but I have to hire people and give them a lot of money to do things that I should know. So I think that's really
that's definitely something my dad said if I was going to go to college. Obviously my parents are big proponents of education. It's a a value that they instilled in me. Most people that go into the entertainment field, especially like child actors, don't end up going to pursue college. A lot of them don't even finish high school. So my dad said, you're going to college, one, which I was happy and fortunate enough to do. But two, he said, you can go to college and study everything, but you will study business. So if I wanted to add on another major, I could. If I wanted to add on a minor, I could, but I had to have some basic interest area in business so that I had that foundation to fall back on, because it's something that will prepare you for life, whatever you want to do. Having a business degree, I think, prepares you in a way that no other degree can. It can be applied to so many different areas of interest.
Absolutely.
I have a clarifying question. So for me, Madison, you probably know this, but obviously I go to USC too. I'm actually in the same type of program. Mine's just not cinematic arts. Mine's international relations. But the reason why I chose to take it on the business side was because I want to be on the business side of IR. And so I guess maybe you just did it because of your dad, but do you find that you'll be able to, take that degree and be able to still be in front of the camera? Or are you hoping to get more behind the camera, or you just weren't able to take a dual program?
That's a great question. So I think in addition to my dad's push and, interest in business, I have been working in front of the screen for so long that doing a theater or performing program that like focused around acting just, wasn't worth $70,000 a year for me. Right. And it's something that, I've been training for a really long time, and I'm very proud and confident as to my abilities as an actress. That doesn't mean I'm still in class. I still work with an acting coach. I can always get better. But I knew that I really had this undeveloped area that I was interested in, which was the business side and like the behind the camera side. So I wanted to put more emphasis on that at USC so that I could kind of level out my understanding. And going forward, I want to do both. I guess that's the simplest way to say it. I want to continue my professional career in front of the camera, but not at the stake of also having a professional career behind it.
Right. No, I think that's so mature. And I love that you're able to, step back and evaluate something that you're able to grow on. I think that a lot of times, like, the reflection is something that definitely we can't all do.
Well, it's definitely a learning process.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess, I think that this next question is something that we ask everybody that's on Young and Hungry. So part of the point of this is that every guest speaker is young. It's in the name. And I guess I feel like you're going to have really good insight into this. And so I guess we're wondering, what has it been like to be acting in the public eye so young? And, not only are you only you're still 19, right? Or are you?
I just turned 20, but yes, very close.
20. Sorry, I actually knew that. I knew that. But, you're 20, and I guess, Ozark premiered when you were, your role in Ozark premiered when you were 19, but you've actually had quite a history of being young in a role of acting. And so what has that been like?
It's a good question. Another good one. So before Ozark, I worked on a lot of shows that not necessarily were less well known, but the roles that I were doing on it were smaller. There's a lot of cases where you see like the overnight successes in entertainment where somebody just becomes famous overnight because of a role. But really most of the time it takes 6 or 7 years of working on smaller projects, building your team, building your resume and line of work to really like land bigger roles. So before that, I guess it wasn't as much in the public eye. And there's kind of this idea, if you want to do acting, there's this pressure that you need to hit it big. Or if you're like, I am an actor or an actress, the first question is, oh, what have you been in? And so a lot of my high school career was, having to learn how to be confident in myself as an actress, even though I knew it was hard to prove to other people that I was good. And so I was constantly dealing with, in a high school environment when people are more immature and insecure, people who would make fun of me for the choices that I was making because I was doing something, especially in Atlanta, Georgia, at the time was so radically different. There was nobody else pursuing a professional acting career in my grade, let alone my entire K through 12 high school or K through 12 school. So it was a lot of, before I have gotten to this point, becoming confident as a woman in front of the screen, and just being confident in my work and the fact that I was passionate about acting enough that I didn't care what other people said or thought about my career. And so that's something that was really hard to do. Especially when you have other high school girls that are going to be mean about things, and everyone has that example in their life of people that have talked bad about them or told them they couldn't do it or weren't doing something. But I think that was really important grounding and, a humility lesson for me. So now that I am at this point where, I have created some sort of like social presence and platform that I'm aware of how to use it and how lucky I am to be here. And so I guess that goes into the second part of your question is, now that I'm confident in my skills and abilities and passionate about the work that I'm doing, I now have a platform. And that's weird because my platform started in the middle of a global pandemic when everyone was locked in their houses. So I have not experienced what it's like to be in public and someone recognize you for that platform or the work that you've done. And I probably won't experience that for a while because we're still in the pandemic. But it's been a lot of working with, I have a really amazing team of a manager, agent, and publicist. I have 2 agents and a publicist. And so they really make sure that the projects that I'm associating myself with are things that I'm passionate about, that are going to help my career. And then also that I'm talking about causes and, spreading the word about things that I'm passionate about. One of those things is the Foundation for Hospital Art. It's a volunteer organization that's a nonprofit where you can volunteer your time to do paint by like color paintings that get sent to hospitals. And right now, for me, I think that's extremely important with the health crisis that's going on right now and how many people are spending times, not only healthcare workers, but individuals that are sick with COVID-19 are spending in hospitals. And so what they're trying to do is use art, which is obviously something I'm passionate about, to inspire hope and healing. So it's been a myriad of, over the past couple of years becoming confident in what I'm doing, passionate, and then making sure I'm using that platform now that I have it to continue my life in the right direction.
That's very well put. Very
Yeah.
eloquent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kara. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, I'm your friend and I'm your friend because I love you and I think you're an amazing person. But I also love that, you know, professionally, exactly what you just said. I think that, you know, when people start to gain a following, I think that they lack credibility when they just only care about the, you know, the publicity, and they only care about the popularity that it brings. And I find honestly that the people that I want to follow as, you know, not even just like influencers, but people just like that have a following, the people that I want to follow, the people that I look up to are people that use their platform for good, that use their platform to speak out about, you know, issues or just show support for something that's really important. And I, just as your friend, I want to say that I think that's really amazing that you do that. And I think that it's really, really important going forward, because I just think that that's going to allow you to be a lot more authentic and really just show who you are as a person more than just somebody who gets, you know, on the screen and plays a different role.
Thank you. And it's still a learning process, and I'm still every day trying to reevaluate and learn from past, you know, every day I'm learning something new and how I can adjust and do better. So,
yeah. And I think your response perfectly goes into our next question. I think you answered it to some capacity. Regardless of how big your roles were and the platform that you got, it was still a public career that people did have judgment on, or they thought they could have judgment on it and they could pass that judgment on to you. And how do you handle with that criticism, be that like trolls on the internet, on your social media page, or people doubting your acting abilities? And as a young professional, I know that that can be hard just to hear that, because you're trying your best. You're still a rookie in most of the things that you're doing. So how have you handled criticism, and how has that affected you in your career so far?
Good question. So for Ozark specifically, I'm very fortunate to say that, you know, we got we got 18 Emmy nominations, which I still cannot even like begin to understand. So when it came to really having like negative criticism about the season, I was very lucky that the season that I was on really just didn't have much. But there's been other things that I've had to deal with the fact that I am on a older, darker show. Obviously on the show, I have a very foul mouth. I do illegal things and mess up plot points, which that can be frustrating when people have a hard time, you know, disassociating your character on a show with your character in real life. And also, you know, just being a young teenage girl on TV has brought a lot of, you know, interesting comments and stuff. One of like the weirdest part of the season for me that I didn't really think about until it aired was the fact that I spent like half of the season in a bathing suit, which at the time I was like, you know, I'm at the lake. Like it didn't even occur to me that this was like, you know, an important thing or that people would care. And then it came out, and my mom came up to me like 2 days after Ozark had premiered, and she was like, Madison, this weekend, 33 million people watched the season. And I was like, 33 million people have seen me parade around in a bathing suit on a dock and say terrible things. And so it started to set in, and with that came a following of, you know, older men from around the country that, you know, sometimes valued the way I looked more than my acting abilities, or, you know, what the attention was brought was how I looked on the show versus, you know, the real work I was doing. And so that's been really weird, because I feel like that the following that I've gained has amassed or has made me created like an attention on what I look like more than my abilities. And so just like with comments and with DMs and just like the things people say, not as much in like interviews when it's professional, people really do keep it professional. But if you look through like my Instagram comments on like a photo I post, it's crazy how much it's just focused on like superficial things. So I've had to really, you know, keep remind myself not to really focus on those things and make sure, every day I'm like, you know what, that's not why you're doing this. This is not why it's important. And there are other things to you that are wonderful that people appreciate. And so it just so that was an interesting part of the social presence that was created. I don't know if I would consider it trolls, because a lot of times they're saying very nice things,
right.
or little creepy things, but it's definitely been something that any type of social media presence gives you attention in a way that you don't experience in real life, because it is over a social platform. People say things that they wouldn't necessarily say in real life, whether they be really, really nice or not. So it's just been, contextualizing those when I'm looking through them, and then also trying not to pay attention to them too much.
I can't even imagine what your DMs look like.
It's sometimes terrifying. I mean, I actually have, when the show first came out was when I got the most outrageous DMs.
Right.
But I would screenshot them and send it to my roommates at school because they were so funny. And I think my favorite one, this is totally off topic, but my favorite one was this, I don't know who it was, but this Instagram account sent me like a picture of a refrigerator, a picture of a microwave and a couch and a bed, and just sent these things. And I was so confused. And like, I didn't respond, because I usually like don't respond to things, because as soon as you respond, it like creates like a gateway for conversation that I don't necessarily want to engage in. And then like 3 days I came back later, and this person had DM'd me again. It was like, sorry, I'm just moving into your DMs. And I don't know why I thought that was so weird and funny. And like, people will do the randomest things to get your attention. So if he or she is watching, you got my attention. I didn't respond, but and they'll ask weird questions, and a lot of people will ask things that I can't say about the show. So it's kind of hard, but.
Well, about something that you just said. So obviously, I didn't even think about that, about the fact that you're going to have to face a lot of, just people talking about the way you look, and you're beautiful, so it doesn't matter. But
Thank you.
that's I can't imagine feeling that, like, at our age. I feel like that would be a lot of pressure on you. And so I guess, you seem, to me at least, like that's not really a sentiment that you like, that you want to be valued for, your work and your talent, not just looked at because of your body, And so going forward, do you have a plan of how you want to, try and maybe navigate your social platforms, or like just the roles that you take because of that? Or, I mean, is there something that you're thinking about to adapt and get away from that? I'm just curious.
Yes. And so, part of it is, this is what I look like, and I'm proud of what I look like. And I know there's lots of, I'm fortunate that, I have a very fast metabolism, and I have parents that can, I can afford nice makeup and practice to make myself look better on days when I'm not looking the best. But definitely, I think that comes down to roles that I'm accepting. Now that I have Ozark on my resume and have been a part of such an incredible show and like brand, it's definitely gives me an advantage in the negotiation and like choosing process when I choose what projects I'm a part of in the future. And so that's something that I keep in mind. I want to attach myself to not only projects that I'm passionate about, because the creatives on it are interesting, but they're telling the right story, and they're telling an authentic story, and not wasting my energy and time on it with Ozark. And so I'm not like, I love all the work that I did on Ozark, and being in a bathing suit is part of the story, because I am living in the Ozarks and I'm a teenage girl, and I've accepted the fact like that is what comes with it. I cannot change what I look like, whether people like that or don't. And so it has to be, I guess, my motivation will be choosing projects that I'm passionate about the story. And I think that's really the only thing I can do. And people are going to say what they want and think what they want. But as long as, I feel passionate about that, I think that will really help me just like be able to ignore everything else.
I mean, even if you like are completely covered, it shouldn't, first of all, it doesn't matter if you are covered or you're not covered, because you're doing a job that's conveying a story of this creative that he or she had in his mind. I think there's going to be criticism regardless. If you wear like just sweaters and jeans and boots all season, they'll be like, wow, you just did not show any skin. And then if you're wearing a bathing suit, then you're showing too much skin. So there's really no good.
It was just all something that I had never experienced before. So it was, I mean, just like something fascinating that comes with having that kind of presence.
And you had to deal with it on such like a large scale. And for me, it was, I am in no means like a social media celebrity or anything like that. And I never had any, like, fortunately, nothing, like no body confidence issues or anything like that. But even for like the longest time, I've never posted a bathing suit picture. Just because I'm like, I am a public Instagram because of the work that I do and people need to see my work. And like last summer, like this summer, I posted one, and even then it was like really like you don't see that much, because for me it was just like I don't want to bring that attention onto my Instagram. And it's just like a really,
it's too bad that like we live in a world where like women's bodies have to be sexualized to such a point that, you know, you don't even feel comfortable putting a completely normal thing. People wear bathing suits of all shapes and sizes. People are all like of different shapes and sizes. It shouldn't matter what I'm wearing to the pool with my family if I'm like taking So I completely agree. And, you know, unfortunately, that is the world we live in. I would love to see a change in it. And that's definitely something that I would love to focus my time in, is bringing more awareness to those things. And, but yeah, you know, it's a work in progress.
By talking about them, you do, you know, I mean, that's not something that I had thought about. So, you know, but yeah, so I guess, you know, moving on a little bit, Ozark is on Netflix, which is a major platform, arguably the biggest platform that people use to stream shows on. And so what has it been like, you know, working with not only just such a big show, but such a big platform?
It's been crazy. I think the coolest part of it is because it is such a large streaming service, we have an incredible international presence, which is before Ozark, I worked on some cable television shows, but nothing that reached the capacity that Ozark did. And they have so many resources these days to translate into different languages, and just like, you know, the capacity that Netflix reaches is incredible. And so I think that's reflected in the following that I've gained. I was looking at I was working with my team and looking at the insights in my social media, and it's like, I think it was like 2% of my followers are from Atlanta, which is where I'm from, which is like all of my friends, all of my family, where I've lived for 15 years. So for most people, that's like 100% is where it's their hometown people. But it was like over 50% of my the people who follow me are from outside of the country, which I think is so incredible, like how far our show reaches. And I think on the business side, how easy it is to disregard the international audience, and how much of a interesting like weapon that can be to, you know, whatever your work you're doing. I feel like in America, I love the US, but we're very us focused. And so it's, you know, creating a product that people will like here. And then, you know, people kind of forget about the fact that there are hundreds of other countries that have people that might be just as interested in what we're doing, the product or the idea that you're coming up with. So it's been a good reminder of, you know, how big the audience of the world is.
Yeah. Oh, that's very humbling. That's awesome.
And I think it's just so cool that you get to work for a streaming service that I think really defined our generation. Like Netflix is like, that's what we're going to tell our kids, like when they, hopefully Netflix is still around, that's about, like, there was a time where we used to like order and rent DVDs from Netflix. Like it started from there to have.
I totally remember when they did that too. It's crazy.
So just like a piggyback question off of that, how is it working with the cast? I mean, you have a very accomplished cast who have been around for a really long time and who are incredible actors. So what was that like?
It was, one, so humbling, two, the greatest learning experience of my life. I mean, I like look back at it, and when you're in the thick of it, and I booked the show, the audition process was really fast. I did one audition that was on tape. It was sent to Jason Bateman, all of the producers, and the showrunner, and the next week they were like, okay, you're working. So like there was no like, not being directed with like, I worked really hard on the audition, and you know, I had auditioned for the show multiple times before, and I'd worked with the casting director on other shows, but you know, I was really thrown into the beast that is Ozark. The first day I was there, Jason Bateman was directing me in my scene, and I was working with Janet McTeer, who plays my mom, who is a Tony award-winning, she's literally done everything.
How was it being directed by Jason Bateman? Like, he's done Jason on the show.
So Jason Bateman is incredible. He is the big boss man. And I guess when most people ask the best way to describe him is he is very similar to the characters he plays on TV. Not in like, you know, Ozark is like kind of, it's not a bad character, but a character in conflict doing illegal activities. But
yeah,
he is a dad, and he has two young daughters. He is passionate about them, and he is so passionate about directing. It was really inspiring as a person who does want to pursue behind the camera opportunities, whether that be producing or directing. It was very inspiring to watch him. On other days, he was directing and acting the same scenes. And so it was really cool to see him go from setting up the cameras and talking about the aspect ratios and how the light would hit different like parts of the trees and how the shadows couldn't be blocked here and how the blocking was important here so we could get this turnaround there. And then he would go in and then knows all his lines. And of course, delivers an incredible masterclass in acting and comedy, dark comedy. But so working with him was inspiring, not only in just an acting level, because really when you're in a scene with it's so important to have a giving scene partner. I think obviously one incredible actor can steal a scene, but a scene is so much more compelling when you have two people that are really working together, and it makes it so much more real. So that was one, incredible. But two, I got to see him work and be so passionate about what he was doing behind the scenes that it really inspired me and got me really excited to go to school a little bit late in the fall because I was working on the season through October. So I started school a little bit late, but it was incredible. Laura Linney is majestic. Janet McTeer is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I made so many incredible friends, and then it's the best acting class I could have ever taken.
I remember we actually met right when you were filming, right? We met, I think, last July, and you're about to start filming. That's when, you know, you're about to be home and flying back and forth from the USC to home just to film. And I remember actually having this exact conversation, and you were talking about, you know, Laura Linney, I think that's her name, and like some of the characters. And I remember you like being like, I've watched them, you know, act or, you know, be on Broadway or whatever, you know, they did. And I've watched them growing up, and it's just like the most surreal experience to be able to, you know, actually be alongside them.
Sitting across from them. It's incredible. And the fact that I had the opportunity to do that at 19 years old, so young, is amazing. And it's something that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah, as you should.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm so happy that we got to hear those experiences, and hopefully it inspires other actresses and actors out there to get out and do their stuffs, and maybe they can also meet really cool people through the process.
Exactly. It's never too late. The earlier you can start, the better. So start now.
Yeah. So just speaking about your profession of being an actor, what has been the biggest thing that you've learned through this profession?
The first thing that comes to mind is the importance of storytelling. I think that's something that I've learned through acting, yes, but also from being a part of the industry as a whole. You know, there's individuals that I really look up to, people like Reese Witherspoon, who are, as actors and actresses in the industry, are using their platform to tell stories that are not
starting her own producing.
Not traditionally being told. And so I think as an actress, I've really learned the importance of, you know, not only storytelling, but telling stories that wouldn't necessarily be heard, and the impact those stories can have, and how big the audience can be, and how you can change minds, change opinions, and change worldviews. And I think that's really important.
Huge magnitude.
I love that you brought up Reese Witherspoon, because she has totally changed the game. And she was like talking about how the fact that she was always the dumb blonde in every 90s movie, and she wanted to change the narrative. And when she couldn't find people who did that for her, she went ahead and started a producing house and is now telling female-led stories and hiring female creatives. And exactly. It was a long time coming, and I'm really glad that it happened.
And not to mention, I still think there's a lot more to go. She's taking the first steps in a direction that, you know, the wave needs to follow, and I think it will. So
big time, you know.
So another thing that, like, we talk about in every episode right now is the presence of COVID in everything that we're doing. And I think the entertainment industry is one that was really hit one of the hardest because it's a very close contact profession. You're everywhere from the makeup artist to the hairstylist to the cameraman to the actual actor. You're always near each other, and everything has been really halted for the last 6 months, and now still things are starting up, but not to the same degree. So how has COVID affected your life as an actor, and what do you think the effects of that will be?
That's a very relevant question. So I guess to give people an idea of, yes, this pandemic has completely shut down the entertainment industry. To give you an idea, when I worked, like a day in the life on Ozark would be, I get up, I go to my trailer, I check in with the PA, so it's one person I'm seeing, and then I go over, I'd go get food, and there's like multiple people that are working in crafty there, so then I see like 4 or 5 more people, and then I go through like 3 different makeup artists, and then a hair artist, and then I get in a van with all of cast. So like, I mean, it's not even 8 a.m. and I've interacted with like 30 different people, and we haven't gotten to set where there are like 20 PAs and the entire crew and, you know, all the people that are in charge of lighting and miking, and like you are constantly touching and running into people. And that's just the nature of working on a film set. It takes hundreds of people working together in sync very closely. So no wonder it completely got shut down, and it has been shut down. They just recently reached some agreements that are going to help, you know, some protocols they were negotiating over. The different big studios like Paramount and Warner Brothers put out, you know, guidelines that they were going to use, but then that had to be countered by the different unions for actors. And so they finally just came to an agreement of how to safely navigate COVID. But that was like 5 months after it had already started. So as an industry, I think people are going to feel this once there's not a lot of new content coming out. I think people don't realize, you know, how much goes into bringing new TV shows and movies to your screens every 2 months. And people are constantly wanting this demand of something new. I binge this, so I need a new TV show to watch on Netflix, or I want to go to the movie theater and there's always like 6 different movies every 2 weeks. You know, that takes hundreds of thousands of people working together to come up with. So having that completely stop means, you know, in the next couple months, we're going to see the repercussions of that. For me as an actress, obviously everything was shut down. I was really lucky that, you know, the TV show Ozark benefited from coming out during COVID. That was, you know, when people say, how has the pandemic been for you? I am one of the few people who can say, you know, COVID changed my career. COVID made it that everybody was locked in their living rooms with their TV the weekend that our TV show came out. And it was like the first thing that came up on Netflix. So we had 3 times the amount of viewership, and we brought in so many new fans for our show. So that's an incredible part of, you know, having people not be out. But what happens 6 months later is really different. And how I think it's going to change the industry, I think it's going to start eliminating the amount of people on set. So, you know, you look at it, they're just going to dwindle it down, and they're going to use resources and space and people more sparingly. And then like for the actor, for people who are interested in acting, it's going to give a lot of people a brand new opportunity to get seen, because everything is really going to be online. It means you're going to be taping your auditions. It's going to mean you're going to be doing Zoom calls with the director or the producers or the writers. Which is great because it doesn't mean you have to go into a casting office to get seen. And it means you might not need an agent or manager to always be seen. It kind of levels the playing field that you don't have to live in Los Angeles to be a part of this industry, which I think is really cool. And it's something that I struggled with because I chose not to move to Los Angeles and I chose to live primarily in Atlanta. I always struggled with the fact that I couldn't be in a room for the audition, and that was counted against me. Now, everyone is putting in tapes, and it's safer and it's easier. Are you getting that immediate redirection in the room and creating personal relationships, no. But everyone's kind of on an even playing field now. So
yeah, that's interesting. Also, the first thing that you brought up, I think, is such an interesting point that I've never thought about. Like, as I like to say that I am talented at binge watching TV shows because I actually am talented at it. I'm really busy, but I love TV, and like I love, I don't really watch like live TV, but like I watch everything on Netflix. And I didn't realize how ruthless we are as viewers until you just said that.
Yeah. It's become part of like mainstream culture. Like binging is a thing. People will go, I flew through The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in 2 seconds.
Oh my God, I love that show. Favorite show.
It's amazing. But then I got to the end of it and I kind of had this like slap in the face moment. I was like, you just ran through it all and now there's nothing left and there probably won't be for another year. So now you have to sit and wait. So in a weird way, it might train people to kind of slow down and appreciate TV, not as much for like the quick story things that are happening, but maybe people will develop more of an appreciation for cinematography because people will take the time to slow down what they're watching and analyze it more than they were before.
I was telling my mom in like the first month, I was like, do you realize we won't have content to watch like in 6 months? Like Netflix pulls out like 30 shows like every month. Like you just see trailers from Netflix like that. And I'm like, you realize like, they're going to run out by the end of the year. Like they have stuff planned. Yeah. And I really like how you brought up the slowing down portion because I think it's necessary. So there's one of my favorite shows is The Crown. And I love The Crown because of its cinematography, casting, acting, like for like the really technical parts of a TV show. It's fantastic. I love it. But you can never binge that show. I think if you binge that show, you will hate it because it's like really like heavy, it's long, it's nothing particularly like super interesting happening, but you have to watch it one a day. And I think I ran into that with a lot of shows where I would get bored after like a couple of seasons. And I'm like, it's not meant to be watched. It's not meant to be 3 years of television is not meant to be watched in a weekend.
Exactly.
Like, there's a reason why I'm getting like bored. Like I always have to step back and be like, okay, let me come back to it.
And analyze what happened. And
like you have to give yourself time. Like there's a reason like characters grow with each year. Like actors grow with each year. Like their acting abilities grow. And you can't expect to finish 3 years of content in a weekend and be like, wow, that was great. Like that happens with very few TV shows. So I'm glad that's happening.
That has to be such a frustrating culture for everyone behind the scenes. Like knowing how much goes into it, like I didn't realize hundreds of people go onto it. I mean, I know that obviously it takes a lot of manpower to film something, but that has got to be such a frustrating culture that we've evolved into. And like not Netflix is amazing and Hulu and all of those, but I bet that just the fact that they come out the way that they do just completely enables that culture,
Yeah, it's definitely, I see us more and more in some sort of the way falling into the soap opera way that people film things. Is it's about getting content out for people to watch. Right. So whether it be like the CW with teenage shows, they're adapting that soap opera, shoot really fast, edit on the fly, where it becomes less about like the cinematography and the acting, and more about, getting somebody a plot line and shooting somebody's heads off of the last part.
And I think that's true, not just.
Oh man, that last episode.
But quick things that are going to elicit emotion and reaction, battle scenes and stuff like that, and we're becoming more and more numb to what's going on.
And I think that's true through every form of media. The fact of our instant gratification and constant content is, in a way, I think the pandemic did such a good job at slowing down. In the fashion industry, so many designers, for people who don't know, you have about 4 collections a year for like haute couture designers. You have your spring, summer, fall, winter, and then you have your 2 resort collections. So there were about 4 collections a year. And if you know designer collections, there was hundreds of pieces. The shows are incredible. You have your marketing and everything. Mm-hmm. And no one could do shows anymore because of the pandemic. So people had to go through online shows, which were beautiful. People should check it out. And every designer was like, I'm so happy that we're back to 2 shows a year. So I can just like breathe and create rather than just being like, okay, I need to make my next collection. I need to make my next collection. And
it's quality over
quantity.
Yeah. And I think that actually, right, we discussed this exact idea, I think with another guest, but it's like when there's that pressure on you to produce, it takes the creativity away from it. And it makes it feel more of I think it makes it feel more of like a chore than like as a passion that that you were able to find an intersection with, like that could, you know, give you a career.
We were talking about it in our last episode.
Right.
But yeah, so in the book that I read, it's by Austin Kleon, and he said that monetization of your passion is a really fine line, and sometimes it should never feel like a chore. And I think it's ended up feeling like a chore for a lot of people, and especially a lot of, I think I see it more transparently in YouTubers, because they'll be like coming out with content every week. They're trying something new and suddenly they'll burn out.
Oh yeah.
Because they didn't take that moment to be like, am I still enjoying this? Am I still creating content that I love? And it's because of our instant gratification. We need, like, I'll wake up and like one of the first things I'll do is go on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, there's no videos today that I want to watch.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Like, no one should be creating content for me every single day. I should be okay with that. Like,
right.
My parents always say, like, we used to wait for like 2 hours of TV, like once a week, that was like new. And I'm just like, what's the next show? I'm kind of over this. Let me like do this.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really good thing that we slowed down.
Yeah. But that being said, I've talked to different people in the industry behind the camera that said, you know, once we do find a vaccine or a way to, you know, move on from this or shoot shows more in a safe manner, the industry has 5-6 months to make up for. So it will be crazy. So if you're looking to get into acting, get started now, because the industry is about to explode when that happens.
Right. Do you think that's a good thing?
As a person who's like ready to get back to work, yes. I mean, you know, it's like, I feel like we've had our period to reflect and come up with new things and really take a step back. And I mean, I liked having a break. You saw me in the spring. I was doing full-time school. I decided to join a sorority. I was doing press for Ozark and shooting other television shows and traveling for press. I mean, like, I didn't have a second to breathe. And so we got to the pandemic, and the first 2 months I was like, you know, this is terrible. I miss my friends, but wow, is it nice to like have a normal sleep schedule and just to not be constantly having to like suck in scripts, spit them out for auditions and move on to the next one. It was just a lot. And now I feel like I've developed this like appreciation, where before I'd kind of like not dread getting an audition, but it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, gotta memorize 10 pages, work with my acting coach, really make sure I know the material, book a place to tape this, you know, tape it a bunch of time, then drive all the way to the taping place that was an hour away, shoot the audition, drive all the way back, make sure I got my homework done. And so now that things are starting to pick up again, every time I get an audition in like my email or something comes through, I get a little butterfly in my stomach, because I'm like, oh yes, like I can finally do it. So I've created this like new appreciation. So yes, I'm excited for it to restart. And I think there's a lot of people in our industry that have been hit really hard by this, where they don't have any other form of work, and have obviously lost their jobs. And so I think a lot of people need it. So
yeah,
that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, again, to move on a little bit, you know, so we can tell that, you know, part of your nearing future is to continue to grow from Ozark, because literally we see you growing from Ozark, you know. It seems like you're having a greater following all the time. And as Ozark continues to produce, you know, new seasons, hopefully, because it's an amazing show, please have new seasons. You know, that
we have season 4, and they did just announce today. Well, I'm not sure if I'm on it or yet. They don't tell me anything at all.
Right.
But they are planning to start shooting in November. So hopefully that means eventually season 4 will be coming to screens near you, but you know, no.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, and you know, even if you weren't on it, that's going to just create more viewership, right? Which is going to bring more to you. And so I guess why I bring this up is because we want to know what your future is. You know, we know that obviously it's growing, but what is the future of acting for you? Where do you see yourself, whether it, you know, in the future, whether that's, you know, short or only a few months from now, or 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Yeah. What's coming for you?
Great question. I would love to know. So, you know, when you work in the entertainment industry, knowing what's happening in the next 6 months is a total crapshoot. You have no idea what project is going to come knocking on your door. You have no idea if your show is going to get picked up. You have no idea if they're going to bring you back. You have no idea what's happening. So I really can't say where I'll be in the next 6 months. Hopefully it's at USC and things are a little bit back to normal and I can embrace my friends. But I do have a lot of like long-term goals that I'd love to achieve. I think one of those would be, in addition to working like in front of the camera on projects, I'd love to eventually, whether that be after working in like the studio system or something like that, create my own production company, something similar to Reese Witherspoon. Something that I'm passionate about is obviously telling female stories. I love the fact that Reese is kind of capitalizing on that niche that people have really ignored for such a long time. I think there's more steps to go. I think there's people of color and members of the LGBTQ plus community that have stories that are completely underrepresented and not being told. So I want to give people like that, whether that be their stories or people behind the camera or in front of the camera that are not typically represented, I want to give them the chance to do so. So I want to follow her in that sense. But I also want to, I'm not like trying to copy her in any way, but I want to put a spin on it that's something that I'm more passionate about, and that is musical theater. You can see my playbills here. I love musical theater. I'm a musical theater minor. I've always loved film and TV, but musical theater is kind of where my heart is. And so something that I've really been learning about at USC in my classes is about the intersection of musical theater and film and TV. There's movie musicals like La La Land. There's TV shows like Zoe's Ultimate Playlist, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that are award-winning shows that people love, and there is a market for it. And so I'd love to be able to focus on that niche of film and TV that are musicals, or taking movies and musicals that are cult classics like Mean Girls and turning them into musicals, and musicals like The Prom and turning them into movies. Being able to work on that intersection, and then, give those people a voice and a platform to a community that I think is going to be a lot more welcoming to them, and, take the steps towards giving them a broader audience.
Yeah.
This is kind of random, but I was really excited about In the Heights by Lin-Manuel coming
out.
Yes,
so good.
I love that musical so much.
When is it?
It's coming out next summer. He said that it's something that should be seen on the big screen. So that's why Hamilton came out this summer. It was supposed to be like different, like it was supposed to be switched.
Right. Yep.
And so I'm really excited. So I'm glad you're working on that, because hopefully we can see some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, it's something I've always loved, and it's something that, where they talk about monetizing your passion. That's something that I would wake up every day and just be like so excited with a smile on my face to go to work. And being able to work in front of the screen for those opportunities, kind of like Reese does, but also be able to facilitate it behind the scenes would be really cool.
Right. Well, you're super ambitious, and I have total faith that you're going to make that happen. I'm excited to watch that.
Thank you.
And then, kind of, wrapping up, one thing that we really want from Young and Hungry is for people that are aspiring to do whatever each of our guests do, to be able to, take a little bit of advice, or maybe these episodes empower them a little bit to, finally take that push and start whatever, they want to do. And so what would be your advice for somebody who is young and wants to get into the acting world?
Sure. So I guess this can apply to people that are interested in acting or interested in behind the camera. These are your superpower. I just turned on my light. But here's the thing. Social media is a thing that has not existed to the capacity that it has ever, like right now. And you have an ability to create content like never before. You have a way to shoot movies. You can shoot it on an iPhone or any kind of phone that you have. You can shoot them on there. You can record yourself. You can edit cool things together. Whatever you're passionate about, whatever you want to learn about, there's tutorials on the internet to get you there. So start teaching yourself now and start getting your content out there, because you never know who's going to see that content and become a fan of yours. So the second that you start putting it out and showing people that you're passionate about it, the sooner you're going to get, moving in the direction that you want to. So that would be my best advice to people who, want to get into the industry but aren't really sure how. You can get into the industry in so many different ways, and I think the fastest way is through your phone. So start, and if that means you can't go to like a university that you want to do it, you still have the abilities, like the tools are in your hands, so just utilize them.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, because literally anything you want to do, if you go on Google and search it, you will find something that is free and you can learn from it. And I think we should be taking advantage of the age that we're in, that even if you can't afford, which is really sad, if you can't afford a college that has those things, and if your college doesn't teach that, you can still go online and find free courses and learn about it. So really like take this time. And for me, at least personally, every week I have kind of like a goal. I'm like, I have to spend 30 minutes learning something on the internet because I'm getting these resources. I should never like look back and be like, oh, well, I had time and the stuff to do it with, but I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best
Learn,
advice.
create, share.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it, and people will find your work. And if it's good and you keep practicing, then people will become fans of yours, and that's how you can really break in.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think that's great advice. And for anyone listening and watching, obviously, you know, you hear from Madison right now that it's not as daunting as it, you know, may feel. It's really, really honestly quite easy to be able to start, you know, not necessarily easy to get attraction or get attention, you know, but, you know, easy to be able to start to create content. And our last question is just something that we would love to know about you is what has been the most rewarding part of your journey as an actress?
Ooh, let's see here. I want to answer this first, so I'm going to think about it for a second.
Yeah, you're good. It's a loaded question a little bit.
I think the most rewarding part for me is the incredible people that I get to work with. And I know that people look at, there's one part of it that, you know, these are people that we've watched on our TV screens and idolized for so many years. And I'm so lucky to get to work with these really, really fascinating, cool individuals that people idolize, and I've idolized since I was a kid, but also to work with some of the most creative people in the world is super inspiring. And just to learn about how they think and approach new problems and ideas and stories is really inspiring and motivating, that, you know, even in the most daunting situations, kind of the best way to go about it is thinking outside the box. And so I think that's been the most rewarding, is getting to see that in action.
I think for me too, like just working with and talking with inspiring people who are in my
Exactly.
field, just it brings me so much joy. Like one thing that I did through my college was the costume designer for Mad Men came and just talked about our process. And I'm obsessed with Mad Men because the fashion is insane and the TV show is phenomenal as well. And I'm sitting there like listening to her and I'm like, what is my life that I get to like
That's the thing about acting is like, it's one of the small like career paths that you can take where you will work right next to the people that you want to be. A lot of the times, if you're working in a company, if you're working in business or finance, you work your way up the ladder and you don't get to work next to the CEO until you are the person below the CEO. Right. But with acting, I mean, I would love to have a career like Laura Linney's someday, and I am working across the table from her. So you really get like a different type of learning experience. And I think that is so something that I value and appreciate so much.
I think relationships are one of the most important things that you can have, just because you get to learn so much from other people. This again will sound like a brag, but I'm so grateful for my college. And they had this talk with the photographer for Harry and Meghan for their wedding and their engagement picture. And he's like the biggest fashion photographer. Wow. And I'm talking, and then I asked him questions and he like gave me his insight. And I think that was like one of the most valuable things I could have done, because this person has so much experience, has so many connections, and you just putting yourself out there and building somewhat of a relationship and just asking questions has helped me so much, and just to think about my life. So for anyone who's listening or watching, if in any way that you can ask people for their advice or what's been in their life and just try to build somewhat of a connection, I think it's the most helpful thing that you can have, because it's super inspiring to hear.
Exactly. And on a smaller scale, I feel that exact way with this exact series, because, you know, Ryan talked about this in like some of the other episodes, but every single time I'll think that it could be somebody I'm friends with, and I'll think that I know their process or what they're going through. And it's like, I feel like I learned so much, and every single person comes in with a new way that they approach something or a new creative process. And I'm just like, wow, I need to take all of this insight and, you know, apply it.
Apply. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Madison. This is so nice. And we're so
much
grateful
for having me.
Yeah, we learned so much, and we just appreciate you so much for doing this. So go ahead and plug your socials and just things you want people to see.
Of course.
Find you.
So I am on Twitter and on Facebook and TikTok, but the best way to find me is on my Instagram, Madison Thompson, my name, MadisonThompson. That's where I am the most active because I'm really not that active on social media, but that's kind of it where you can find everything. So that's
please go check her out, everyone, and go watch her on Ozark. She's
Yes.
phenomenal. She's doing great things, and one day you're gonna be at the Oscars, and I'll be like, oh, well, I interviewed that girl.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
Yeah. And, obviously Rye already said it, but I want to reiterate, how thankful we are just again that you're here. I know that, obviously I knew before you had a lot of insight to offer, but, now that we're done, I really know you have a lot of insight to offer because I know that there are so many people I'm friends with and a lot of people out there that we don't even know that are aspiring to, even be on any Netflix show or be in the film industry. And I think that for anybody listening or watching, it's really, really cool to be able to hear this like really unique, direct insight from somebody like Madison, who is young and working so hard and just has this amazing future and ahead of her, And so we wish you the best of luck on all of those endeavors.
Thank you so much.
And wait to watch you as you're finished. Watch the things that you're on. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for tuning in and watching or listening. We had a lot of fun doing this talk, so we hope you had fun listening to it. And again, just to reiterate, Young and Hungry is a platform where we just want to spotlight and highlight some really cool individuals who are kind of breaking the mold and going on their own adventure. And we want to just have other people listen to their journey. So if you have someone that you think we should interview, or if you have any comments or feedbacks about this entire interview, make sure you leave a comment down in our YouTube comment section or DM us on Facebook and Instagram at Leudic Shop, which is LEUDIC shop. And you can also email us at leudicshop@gmail.com. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, we hope everybody listening or watching enjoys this new installment of our brand. This is actually our 6th episode. And we hope that you guys will follow us on our social medias, which Rye just said, just so you can keep up with all the new guests that we're going to have in the future and hear all the amazing insight that they have to offer. So until next time, thank you guys, everybody, for listening or watching to Young and Hungry. Thank you, Madison, for being here. We are so grateful to have you here. And everybody, if you're young, keep hustling because we know that you deserve the recognition. Bye, everyone.
Bye.